with the Schubert Brothers, yet another brother combination for Jefferson football. We got older brother Nick, younger brother Jake. What does Jefferson football mean to you in the game of football? When did you start playing it, Nick? Obviously, you were the first one. What about the sport of football kind of led you down that path to become a Jaguar?
I think from a very young age, watching Vikings games, stuff like that, I always had interest in football. Jake and I would play, one-on-one in our front yard. We'd play in the street with the neighbor kids playing two-hand touch. And I think it was ingrained early, and it was such an exciting thing when third grade came around and get to tackle football. And that was such a big deal. And so playing it all the way up, and, when you're younger, you start to realize you go to the big stadium, you'd see playing Friday Night Lights, and so that was always a desire to get there someday.
How about following in your brother's footsteps? Who won those backyard battles most of the time, Jake?
I'd like to say I did, but I think I'd say Nick probably won most of them. But we would always play with friends too, and in those one-on-one games, or if they were two-on-two, a lot of times they'd take place in our parents' neighborhood right on the street, actually. So we each got plenty of scars on our elbows and stuff like that from the street football games that would happen, along with the backyard ones. But always fun, that's for sure. Where I think passion started for it, along with Viking games and stuff like that. But
so Nick, when you got to put on that Jaguar Columbia blue jersey for the first time at Bloomington Stadium, what do you remember about that?
I just remember the band playing and you come running out, right, and there's just a lot of excitement in the air, a lot of anticipation. And I think there's a very special, like those early fall days too, it's still light out, but the lights are on, and it's just kind of a big moment, and it was a really cool feeling.
Yeah, and I would add on to that too, where football is a unique sport where you practice maybe 5 times in a week to play one game. So how much work goes into getting to that Friday Night Lights? When you get to walk out, hear the fans, see the lights, do all of that, just all the work that goes into each game that week. But it's very special. It's a very unique sport in that way.
Do you have any favorite games or memories from your playing time?
The one that comes to my mind is the first game of my senior year. We had a couple of tough seasons back to back, but we were down in Burnsville, and we beat Burnsville, and it had a block punt involved in there too. So it was a really exciting game, and I just remember that bus ride home. It was such a reason for celebrating. It was the first game of the year too, and that one definitely stands out.
One that stands out for me too would be my senior year. Our first game was against Kennedy, so you had that crosstown rivalry going, things like that, and you had the whole summer is kind of how I remember, where we're all planning, working towards, during all of it, just knowing that big game is coming, and we ended up winning it, but it was just super fun to go against the crosstown rival, stuff like that. So that was always a highlight too, and a good way to start the year for sure.
Coaches have been such a big part of Jefferson football throughout its history. Who are some of the more memorable coaches that were a part of shaping who you are as young men at that time?
Yeah, I think I wholeheartedly agree with that. That coaches have a big impact and can call you higher a little bit too and help you see things you can't. Coach Levy was a great coach and somebody that you knew cared a lot about us as people. But also as football players too, and along with Coach Carlson, there was a demand for excellence and doing the job the right way, and if you weren't doing it the right way, they'd let you know about it, and I think that's a really important thing, especially at an age where you feel like maybe you know better at times, and so to have somebody hold a standard was really important.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Coach Carlson would be number one on that list for me. He had him as a 7th grade teacher, so going way back before I was at Jefferson football, but I remember him grabbing me along with, a handful of other students, but joining what he called kind of like a leadership group, where we'd meet for lunch every so often and stuff like that, go over things, and I just remember that being kind of early start of development, but then, getting to high school, kind of like Nick said, just calling in like the character traits, the things that go beyond football, that take you into real life and stuff, developing that kind of thing was hugely important, and I think Coach Carlson definitely put that into all of us. So,
Coach Carlson mentioned to me that the Schubert boys have huge hearts, and he mentioned there were a couple times maybe he called that out in front of the whole team. Do you remember those moments?
Yeah, I do. I remember the one early on I think it was a PAT, and I think I went diving for it, and I didn't get it, but he called out, and he was yelling, but he was just saying, good job, good effort, and then I think we went into halftime shortly thereafter and called it out in front of the team, and may have dropped like Rudy or something in there, and that one stuck for a while, so it took me a while to shed that one.
Did you know he was quoting a Hollywood movie?
I did, yes,
Okay.
yes, I did, yep. So then with my closest buddy, it was hard for me to shake that nickname, but I did after a while.
His rendition of, I can't remember the name of the coach, but
I
how
don't
close
remember.
was it?
I don't remember. I just know sometimes you'd hear him yell, and that sometimes meant that you messed up, but this one he was commending the effort.
I think it wasn't the coach. I think it was the janitor, right, of the Notre Dame facility.
I gotta go back and watch that. Yeah.
That's great.
For myself, I wouldn't say I remember a specific time. I just know that he's got a huge heart for his players, for the game too. One of the ones that always comes into my head, one of my teammates at the time, his name was Neil Walsh. Don't remember the game, what happened, anything like that. All I remember, a big moment happened. Neil's coming off, obviously wearing his football helmet, and Coach Carlson headbutted him, obviously not wearing a helmet. That didn't go so well for him at that moment. But that's something that I remember. So I know he's got a huge heart, though, for the players, for the football organization or high school as a whole. So.
How do you think some of the coaches, you mentioned Coach Levy, Coach Carlson, help prepare you not only for the Friday games, but for life after Jefferson and what your life has turned into now?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think there's a lot of traits that, as life goes on a little bit, you learn that you really value, but I think there's like a resiliency. Like I mentioned earlier, we didn't have a lot of success in the couple years that I played here, but I think the resiliency that you get back up, you get back in there, you keep showing up, and I think those are the things that kind of carry over to life. Like you kind of get back into the fight, you just keep showing up, and that really matters. And I think that they modeled that very well. I remember some of those locker room after tough losses, we'd be in the locker room gathered and just having our backs and saying, people are on you, like we got your backs, and we knew that too. So I think that went a long ways.
I would agree with all that too, and I think one of the other traits that comes to my mind for what carries over is just the discipline. The discipline of going to summer workouts and then going through all the practices, going to the 7-on-7s and stuff like that. Just all the stuff that goes into being a Jefferson Jaguar football player. So the discipline of that definitely is something that you can take from it, and I think just pouring your whole heart into the sport, into the team, into your teammates is so important for, just a life lesson of putting yourself all in on, whether that's your faith, family, if it's your work, whatever it is, just going all for it is something that you can take from it too.
Was it rewarding, even though the teams that you were on maybe didn't have the number of wins that you were hoping for? But I think right after you graduated, Jake, that next fall's team goes to the state tournament. Do you take any pride in going, hey, maybe we set the right example for the next group to come in and have the success that they were able to have?
I think definitely more so just, not even so much taking pride in that. I would just say excited for the team on where they were able to go, and kind of knowing that you battled alongside a lot of the guys that were there is fun to see them develop and then turn it into something that was very good there. So I'd say exciting more so in that way.
And I say too, I definitely like to check in on the fall and see how the team is doing, and like definitely pulling for them. You want to see the best. So definitely excited when success is followed.